So taking refuge in generating bodhicitta, I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to this Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Whenever you're ready, Geshe-la.
Okay. I'm nervous. So as you just read, taking refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and also generating bodhicitta. Taking refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha is said to be a practice which distinguishes you from the wrong path. Taking refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha is the right path, and there may be many wrong paths. So by taking refuge in these three, you distinguish yourself by not following the wrong path. And then by cultivation of the bodhicitta, you distinguish yourself from the inferior paths. Inferior paths are paths where you primarily think about yourself and not about others. And when you generate bodhicitta, you are saying, may I become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. This is very, very important. And then I'm sure most of you know why we take refuge. In our ordinary human life, whenever we have a problem, we seek the support of somebody else who has the power, who has the money, who has the capacity to help us. So when you say, I take refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, you are basically saying, I have a problem. So here in this case, the problem is not the problem of shortage of money or shortage of power, but problem of having such a huge amount of negative emotions within us. Attachment, anger, jealousy, countless negative emotions are there within us. So they are the real troublemakers, which will hinder you not only not to achieve nirvana and liberation and enlightenment, but it will not let you even have peace and happiness in this very life. So this is important to write at the beginning. You need to think about the reason why we need to do Dharma practice is simply said, it is to fight with these negative emotions. Now here in this case, all of us have to do the research, not just follow what the Buddha said or what His Holiness Dalai Lama said and what some other teachers are saying, but you need to yourself undertake a research and examine all of these negative emotions. We all have this experience of having cultivated one or the other negative emotions. So recall those moments when you cultivated one of these negative emotions. For example, recall those moments when you were angry. Did you enjoy? When you recall those moments, do you recall that you were very happy when you were angry? And also, do you recall that when you were angry, you looked very handsome and beautiful? And also, when you got angry, you said very nice things, nice words to others, and showed very good, gentle physical gestures. Do we do those things when we are angry? Certainly not. When you get angry, you become ugly, you become insane, your physical gestures are wild, your verbal speech is again harsh, and then of course your mind is totally disturbed. So negative emotion means those emotions which when arises in your mind leaves you completely disturbed. And we don't want to remain disturbed, right? We are very good in complaining, about others, saying that I have this miserable situation because of this, that, the environment, the people, the country, the pollution, there are a host of other things which might have bothered you a little bit, but the main source of your unhappiness is not outside, it is within yourself. So that, to start with, you need to recognize this, right? So you need to do. I mean, I'm glad that you planned these sessions of teaching very well. We gather here today, and then until next Sunday, you have time to do the homework. Now you can't say you are very busy. At least you will get 1 or 2 hours in this one whole week. So do some research. Write a short article about anger. Recall those moments when you are angry, when you are, you know, when you develop jealousy, attachment, and so forth. Was it good? Recall those moments. We cannot just simply say anger is bad. We need to highlight the negativities of all these negative emotions. So the purpose of religious practice, Buddhist practice at least, is to distance yourself from these negative emotions, to weaken and reduce the influence of these negative emotions, and gradually, if possible, then completely eradicate these negative emotions. That is the only work, nothing else. I mean, we can keep on talking. We have another 3 more sessions to talk, and then we can also keep on talking the whole year, things like that. But talking is one thing, but how much we are able to find out the real enemy and how much we are prepared to fight with these negative emotions and lessen the influence of these negative emotions. If that is there, then you are doing dharma practice. If that is not there, okay, keep on listening to many teachings, keep on reading many books. You will remain as you were before. I'm saying this based on my own experience. Right? So it's really important to see these negative emotions as our sworn enemies, not the people outside, not the weather outside. So dharma practice means you need to become your own master. You need to become your own caregiver, caretaker. You need to become independent. That's what we are saying. Right now, we are not independent. You may be living in a so-called independent country, which means nothing for me. But even if you're living in a so-called independent country, you are not independent, honestly speaking. Right? So highlight these negative emotions. It's like recognizing all the enemies. You need to recognize all the enemies: anger, jealousy, hatred, negative competition, pride, egoism, selfishness. So many negative emotions that they are highlighted not only in the Buddhist text but also in some of the social emotional learning texts these days. The scientists have also highlighted some of these negative emotions. They don't call it negative emotion, but they call it emotions that you need to be very careful. Right? So I already told you so many things. Now we need to practice this. Okay. But we need to read a little bit from the text. So I'll read a little bit from text. Now, this gathering that we have, we should consider this as a very special, fortunate gathering, not because you are listening to me, but you are reading this very precious text written by no other than the great teacher called Gampopa. Sonam Rinchen is his name. Gampopa Sonam Rinchen was also an ordinary person like you and me in the beginning. He had a very nice family, a very beautiful wife, and two very beautiful kids. But they all died young. The children died, his wife died, and that's what happens with all of us. We think that our happiness will come from our family members, our house, our belongings, our name and fame. I'm not saying you don't need all these things. Not saying that you discard all these things right away. You will not do, I know. And I'm also not saying you do that. But what I'm saying is, if you are looking for long-lasting happiness, then you are looking in the wrong direction. That's what I'm saying. So based on this practical life's experience, Gampopa Sonam Rinchen, he, after the death of his beloved wife and the children, he was devastated, like many of us, ordinary people. Then he really realized that what we are doing in an ordinary level is more or less wastage of time. We are not making our life meaningful. Then he started thinking about the only way to make life meaningful is follow the Dharma. So sometimes, as we say in Buddhism, suffering is the introduction to happiness. Whether you call it suffering or you call it, challenges. We need challenges. We need hardships. We need suffering sometimes. So therefore, some of these great mind training teachers, they always pray, may sufferings and challenges befall upon me. Otherwise, we will never make a move. It's only when the tragedy falls on you or on me individually, then we, at least for some time, it makes us think. It makes us think. Otherwise, you listen to the teaching continuously. I'm not saying it is wastage of time. It may have some benefit, but the real change and transformation is extremely difficult. So when you experience, experience similar to what Milarepa has experienced, then you find yourself helpless. What should I do now? What should I do now? We have these days countless stories of extremely famous rich people who thought that living in that luxurious life is the meaning of life. Flying here and there in charter jet and sleeping in the 5-star or 7-star, whatever, luxurious rooms. We think this is meaning of human life. And when suddenly these very famous people, there are many cases, I have collected some of their stories. When suddenly they get, terrible diseases like cancer and so forth, when they are unable to enjoy anything of what they had accumulated, then they give their parting advice, which is exactly similar like the Buddha's teaching, right? So I'm not saying you should not enjoy things like that. You enjoy, please be happy. I'm not jealous. But all I'm saying is, while appreciating that you have this fortune to be able to enjoy whatever your material success, but don't think this is the end of life. That's the real meaning of human life. And if you're in a capacity to share your knowledge to others, share it. If you have the capacity to share your wealth to others, share it. There are many people who are suffering because they don't know. Majority of the people in the world are suffering because they are ignorant. Some of them may be quite rich, but they are all ignorant. So all kinds of problems that we are seeing in the world today is because of ignorance, which the Buddha highlighted as saying that ignorance is the root cause of all suffering. This is very clear these days. Then for some people, they study a little bit, get a little bit of knowledge, but then they never practice, never apply it. So therefore, these days I conclude by saying all the sufferings that you are encountering today are either due to ignorance or inaction. Ignorance and inaction. If you are hungry, I mean, it is of no benefit just to look at the menu and count all the list of the cuisines. Unless you eat it, your hunger will not be done away with. It's like that. So Dharma is not so much for talking, it is for living. And when we talk about living or practicing Dharma, it is not easy. It is not easy because we are surrounded by people who have no interest in Dharma, whose whole focus is how to run hither and collect money for whatever be the reason. The whole world is running today. Not only running in the ancient way, but running with the speed of science and technology. Running, and reaching nowhere. And everybody says, I'm busy, and nobody knows what are you busy about. And this has been highlighted a long time back by some of the Buddhist practitioners. And they said that your feet is very swift, but you are not reaching to the place where you should be reaching. Right? So therefore, at the very outset, we should really consider ourselves fortunate and lucky to get access to this such kind of precious teaching. The man who was also not only a great teacher, but he was also a great physician. And after the passing away of his family members, he dedicated his whole life for Dharma practice and become very, very renowned. And then later on, he met Milarepa, the most famous Tibetan saint. And in fact, he became the most important disciple of Milarepa. Milarepa had two most important disciples, which are called like the sun-like disciple and the moon-like disciple. So Gampopa was the sun-like disciple, the most important disciple. And this little text that we are reading today, in the end of this text, he concludes by saying, those of you who had not met me personally, don't feel sorry for that, because even if you meet me personally, I have nothing to teach more than what I have written here in this book. And he said, if you read this book properly and study and practice, it's equal to your having met me personally. And when the Buddha also give the same kind of parting advice. When he was passing away, his followers wept and cried and then requested him to appoint somebody as his representative. Buddha did not appoint anybody as his representative. Instead, he said, when I'm gone, this is my teaching. This is my representative. This means teaching. When I'm gone, my teaching is my representative. These are very, very important advices. Teaching is extremely important. We need to practice the teaching of the Buddha, of His Holiness Dalai Lama, of Gampopa, and so forth. So we are really, really lucky. We have, in this life, we have access to so many of these great teachers and the teachings by these great masters. Even in English, now so many books are there in English. In the beginning, we had difficulty finding any book in English. And some of those early translations were also, unfortunately, not very good translations. Now we have quite very good translations also. So we are very lucky. Very lucky. In my case also, when I first received the teaching of Gampopa, that must be like 30 years back. When I first, somehow, I'm fond of reading books. So I got English translation of Gampopa's Ornament of uh, Liberation. Later on, I realized it was unfortunately very badly translated. But anyway, I got this book, which was probably a good omen. Then later on, as I said, something like more than like 25, 30 years back, when I was about to become the translator of His Holiness Dalai Lama, His Holiness asked me to come to Manali, where he gave this teaching, the Lamrim teaching, Lamrim by Gampopa, which is called Ornament of Liberation. He gave this teaching. So, and then later on, I had the privilege of receiving this transmission of the Precious Garland of the Sublime Path, which we are reading today. I was able to get this teaching from His Holiness many times when I was his translator and traveling with him. So in that way, I consider myself very, very lucky. Probably have some karmic connection with Gampopa. And there is a very beautiful Kagyu center in Manali. So I was also able to get a very nice Tibetan kind of scripture of the biography of Gampopa. So this is maybe some good omens. So anyway, I'm very fond of this great teacher and his teaching. I was so excited when I first got hold of this little text. Probably this is the text, probably. When His Holiness gave the teaching, this little book in Tibetan was distributed. And when I read it, I was so moved, I started, memorizing many of these verses. So I urge you should also memorize some of these. They are so good and so easy. 10 things you should do, 10 things you should not do, 10 things that is beneficial, 10 things not beneficial. It's very like mathematical, very scientific. And in each of these sections, there is a complete teaching. If you're not able to proceed further, don't worry, just in these 10 lines on a particular topic or 20 lines on a particular topic, it basically contains everything, right? So that's the greatness of the teacher and the teaching, which is important to explain right in the beginning. Okay. Then what did the text say? The text says Namo Ratna Guru, Namo Ratna Guru. So in the beginning, we have this line Namo Ratna Guru. Now, as I said, this text was composed by Gampopa, who is said to have been prophesied by Buddha himself. And this text is actually a confluence, collection of two important traditions, the Kadamba tradition and Kajuba tradition. Kadamba and Kajuba. Okay. So this is like two streams of river mixing together, which is Kadamba and the Mahamudra of Kajuba, in one text called Precious Garland. The text starts by saying Namo Ratna Guru. Namo means paying homage. I bow down to the precious Guru. I bow down to the precious Guru. I bow down. I bow down. Chao Salva, prostration. I bow down. The reason we bow down right in the beginning is to show your humility. To show your humility. If you don't have this, have the practice of humility, you will not be receptive. If you are puffed up with arrogance, conceit, due to whatever be the reason, then there is no room for receiving the teaching. Among people, there are people who come to listen to the teaching just to find out what this guy is saying. People don't come to listen to the teaching to practice. Okay. And also people come to listen to a talk or a teaching that just to get some new information. That should not be the motivation. The motivation should be that I am like a sick person. I have the negative emotions. So by listening to this teaching, I will try to remove my negative emotions. That should be the reason. You should not listen to the teaching by saying what this guy is saying. He may not have anything to say because I'm a PhD scholar, I'm a professor, I'm a scientist. If you come with this kind of motivation, then your pot is already filled up. There's no room for any liquid to go inside. Okay, so humility. Humility means the practice of humility is the counterforce against arrogance. Pride against pride. Pride goeth before a fall, as we say in English. That is the source of your failure. If you have pride and arrogance, you will become blind. You will, hold your head high, even though you have no proper knowledge. So humility. We can receive teachings even from the word of the mouth of small children if we know how to listen carefully. If you know how to listen carefully, if you know how to see things carefully, the whole world is an open book. At the time of Buddha and many great teachers in the past, they did not have a university or college or school to go. From where did they learn? They probably learned from the teacher, from where their teachers learned their knowledge, from law of nature, by looking at the law of nature. This is very important for me because sometimes we get stuck in the pages of the book. And what is actually explained in the pages of the book is the law of nature. For example, in Buddhism, we talk about imminence of death. It's law of nature. Interdependent origination, law of nature. Interconnectedness, law of nature. Anger is bad, law of nature. Compassion is good, law of nature. So it's basically saying, to summarize it, that this text is basically saying, don't go against the law of nature. Study the law of nature and learn to flow with the law of nature. And if you understand the law of nature, then even if you encounter many ups and downs in your life, you will not be tossed around by those ups and downs in life because you understand that this is law of nature. Just like a great swimmer, you'll be able to swim smoothly, even if there is a big wave or a big tide. You will not be carried away. But most of us are carried away because we don't know the law of nature. We don't know how to deal with it. We are very hard when there is a need to be soft. We are very soft when there is a need to be hard because we don't know the law of nature. Right? Right? So therefore, humility is the most important thing right in the beginning. There is a story of a very senior Lama who himself was a good scholar, but whenever he hears somebody giving a teaching, he used to go to listen to their teacher. Then his personal attendant requested him, please don't do like this. You are a senior teacher. It doesn't look good that you go to every teacher, listen to them. Then he said, don't say this. There may not be anything which I have not heard before, but I always learn something which I've never learned before. So it is not just, as we say, it's not what you eat, but what you digest that makes you healthy. So similarly, it is not what you listen, but what you learn that makes you learn it. Right? So humility, namo, pay homage. Pay homage means physically, verbally, mentally pay homage. Physically you bow down. Verbally recite some prayers. Mentally you develop positive emotions. And out of these three kinds of practices of humility, the most important is the practice of humility by the mind. You may be physically prostrating, but if your mind is arrogant, that's not Dharma practice. Namo Ratana Guru. Namo Ratana Guru. Now this word, Namo Ratana Guru, is actually Sanskrit. And Gampopa was a Tibetan. He wrote this text in Tibetan. Then why did he put this three words in the beginning in Sanskrit? It was a tradition in Tibet in the past to look very highly to all the teachings coming from India. And in fact, all the words of the Buddha, 108 volumes we have right now, 108 huge volumes, plus 225 Shastras, which were the Indian commentaries. So later, Tibetan scholars and Indian scholars together translated all of this, more than 300 volumes, into Tibetan. So in all these texts, right in the beginning, you will find in the Indian language, Panchaparamita or Madhyamika Hridaya, whatever. This will be followed by saying in the Tibetan language. Now, right in the beginning, you have this Indian, verses or Indian words to show that this text is translated from the authentic Indian sources. Now, here in this case, it is not translated, but by using these words in Sanskrit, it is saying that although this is not translated, but this is very authentic, like the ones, those are translated from Sanskrit. There's the reason. And if it is a text translated from Sanskrit, then there is a second reason. The second reason is to remember the kindness of those scholars, translators who translated it. If they had not translated it, we'll not be able to read a thing. For example, this little book translated into English. We should be thankful to the translators. If they had not translated, we'll not be able to read it. Right? That is the reason. Namo Ratana. Ratana means gem, precious jewel. Just as gem, precious jewels, they are regarded highly because of the cost, because of the price. So similarly, your guru, your teacher, is like those precious gems. Therefore, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha we call three jewels, three gems. The precious gems are not easy to get. They are costly. So similarly, qualified teachers also not easy to get. Those teachers who are not so qualified, they will announce, they will advertise and say, come. I'm giving a teaching, come, and you will get enlightened in 1 week. But the real teachers will not do like that. For example, in the case of the Buddha, when he got enlightened, and then he was approached by the devas, the celestial beings and human beings, and requested him to teach. He did not accept. He did not teach. He said, I found something that is profound, peaceful, free from fabrication, clear light, unconditioned. To whomever I teach it, nobody will understand it. So don't disturb me. Let me do my meditation. He was requested 2-3 times. And then in one of the later requests, they requested Buddha by saying, Buddha, you are right. What you found is really like a nectar, very profound, and so forth. So we may not be able to understand it, but among human beings, there are some who are pretty clever, pretty intelligent. So some of them may be able to understand it. So so the point that I'm making is he did this intentionally. One, our habit, our life, our way of thinking is soaked with the mundane worldly activities. Our mind is not attuned to Dharma teachings. And I know many people that as soon as they listen to the teaching or as soon as they try to read the Dharma text, they fall into sleep. So these days I teach people, some people who say I have difficulty sleeping, then I tell them read a book, especially a Dharma book. Right? So the mind is really not attuned towards these things. So therefore the Buddha was saying, this is something for many lives you are not habituated with these teachings, so it may not be easy for you. They are difficult. I'm talking about something which is not your way of thinking. Our way of thinking is we'll live forever. I am permanent. I have no suffering. Things like that, And then everything exists independently. The teaching says the opposite, which is the reality. And then secondly, the Buddha was saying so because by that he is saying that if you want to listen to the teaching, there should be some seriousness. There should be the real wish to listen and get something from the teaching, the wish to practice. If you just come to listen to the teaching with half-hearted attempt, or because many people are going, so you also join the flock, or you have nothing more to do, so just out of curiosity you come. I mean, it's your right, but that will not help you. So Buddha was saying, if you want to come, there should be some seriousness. Listen carefully. You must be serious because this is talking about you're getting long-lasting happiness. Must be serious, right? And then when finally Buddha gave the teaching, he was talking about the law of nature, the Four Noble Truth, which is law of nature. There is suffering, it is cause. We want happiness, it comes from its cause. There's law of nature. It's very scientific, right? And then the word guru is the Sanskrit word. Gu means ignorance. Ru means remover. So guru or teacher should be somebody who has the capacity to remove or lessen your ignorance through his teaching. The word guru also has the connotation of somebody who is heavily loaded with knowledge, with experience. And the real Lama, in Tibetan we call it Lama. Lama means somebody who is higher, superior. So that also you should know. Many of you, I'm sure, are in touch with many Tibetan Lamas. So you hear this word Lama frequently. So the word Lama means somebody superior, higher. Somebody superior in the sense, if you are qualified Lama, then you should care more for others than for yourself. If you're qualified Lama, then you should care more for the next life, coming lives, future lives, lives after death, than this life. So now you can see how many Lamas are there. You will find many Lamas sitting on very high throne, but with this criteria, you will find there are not many true Lamas. Because we are living in an ordinary society, you know. People get elected as a reincarnation, this, there, Lama, you know. I'm not against any of them, but all I'm saying is if you want to do Dharma practice properly, then you should know all these things properly. Don't run after name and fame. That's why Buddha had to teach these four reliances. Four reliances. Four reliances means rely more on the teaching than on the person. That means don't just run after the name and fame of teacher. Listen to the teaching. So out of these two, name and fame of the teacher and his teaching, pay attention to the teaching. If the teaching is good, follow their Lama. If the teaching is not good, even if that Lama has a huge name and sitting on a very, very high throne, it's just a joke. And we are ordinary people, we are easily duped and misled. We follow the flock, as I said, we follow the population. Population means ignorant population. Population with misconceptions, blind faith. And then somebody says, oh, this is Lama, this is a great teacher. Everybody runs without asking any question. So of the teaching and the teacher, follow more of the teaching than of the teacher. Now, when it comes to following the teaching, pay more attention to the meaning than on the beauty of the words. The word may be poetic and very beautiful, but if it is devoid of meaning or not much meaning, then it doesn't serve the purpose. So of the teaching, pay more attention to the meaning than on the word. When it comes to understanding the meaning, pay more attention to the ultimate meaning than on the interpretative meaning. Pay more attention to the definitive meaning than on the interpretative meaning. Meaning that the Buddha has given two types of teaching, definitive meaning and interpretative meaning. Interpretative meaning means the people who follow him, people who come to attend his teaching, they are not of same mental caliber. Some may be very well informed, very clever, some may not be so. So he cannot give the ultimate teaching to everybody. Just like, you know, if two students come, one PhD student and kindergarten going student come to you to listen to you, you cannot give the same teaching to both. For the kindergarten going, you have to say in a different language, different method, even Kaka Ganga or something like that. So Buddha was very skillful for those people whose mind is not attuned. He would give some teaching which is, for the time being, easier to understand. For example, there was a teaching where he said there's this story of Ajat Shatru who killed his father. His father was a famous king. He killed his father. And then later on, he sunk into depression. Then people suggested that it's the only Buddha who can help you to come out of the depression. Then he goes to the Buddha and tells him that I killed my father. The Buddha said, so what? Father and mother have to be killed. Because he had trust to the Buddha. I thought, okay, what I've done, it should be right. Then he came back, when he came back into his senses, then the Buddha said, listen, when I said father and mother to be killed, I'm not talking about your physical father and mother. I'm talking about ignorance and the karma, which are like father and mother produces all of the negative emotions. They are to be killed. If you kill these negative emotions and develop repentance over what you did, you will be purified. So these are skillful. These are not definitive teaching. Okay, so of the meaning, follow more on the definitive teaching than on the interpretative teaching. Now, when it comes to follow the definitive meaning, then pay more attention to the primordial wisdom consciousness than on the gross ordinary consciousness. So that means it is through a very subtle meditative practice. And through the development of wisdom, you'll be able to understand the subtle reality, not just by the grosser mental consciousness. So these are the guidelines that the Buddha gave, how to rely on the authenticity of the teaching. So don't just run after the name and fame of a teacher, right? In other words, use your brain, not only in terms of following the teacher, with whom, with what kind of person you should make connection, what kind of job you should do. In all this, you need to use your brain, right? And this is exactly what is said in the subsequent lines. For example, here, I'll read a little bit. Adorned with the pure conduct of the precious Kagyu, you help us traverse the ocean of samsara, so terrifying and difficult to cross. So this is talking about, he uses the word Kagyu, but he is really talking about, as I said, his teaching is a confluence of two lineages, the Kagyu lineage and the Kadamba lineage. So these lines are talking about the Kadamba lineage, although he uses the word Kagyu, but this is talking about the Kadamba lineage. He's saying that I am so lucky, I am ornamented, I am adorned with the pure conduct of the precious Kadamba. Kadamba practitioners are, very, very well known to be a great practitioner of moral discipline. So therefore, pure conduct. So normally we use the phrases that these Kadamba masters are externally pure, internally pure, and reliable, things like that. So he's saying that I'm so lucky that I'm adorned with the pure conduct of the precious Kagyu. And it's by following this pure conduct, you help us traverse the ocean of samsara. You help us traverse the ocean of samsara. Ocean of samsara. Right? Now, samsara is compared to an ocean. Compared to an ocean. Ocean is not just a small river. Right? It's a huge water body, which for those of us who don't know how to swim, it's terrifying. Even when you go to the very corner of that sea, you need to be very careful, right? Very difficult to cross. You can't cross that big ocean. Okay? You can't cross it easily. So you are in that frightful ocean today. We may not recognize it, but we are stuck in this ocean of samsara, this cycle of existence, a cycle of existence in which there are three types of suffering: the suffering of suffering, suffering of change, and conditioned suffering. Right? And we have this conditioned suffering, which is profound. Just like an ocean is very, very profound, conditioned suffering, which means your very birth is projected by karma and negative emotions. That's why you are suffering. That's why you are having suffering of suffering. That's why you are having suffering of change and many other types of suffering. Because there's basically something big is there, something big mistake is there. Right? So that is just like the depth of the ocean. Very, very deep. You're stuck in that conditioned suffering. Okay. And then because of that, you have this second suffering, which is called suffering of change, which is like the ocean, which is moving and fluctuating with huge waves. Okay, you are carried away by this. I mean, this is so beautiful. Explanation, so beautiful. Suffering of change. Suffering of change. We do not recognize suffering of change as suffering. For example, when you marry, you don't recognize this as suffering. You think that, okay, I'll get happiness by marrying this person. Right? If you're hungry, then you think that, okay, I'll have my lunch and I'll be okay. Yes, for a short while. But then how much you can eat? The more you eat, the more you will start probably vomiting. You can't eat, right? So that means suffering of change. It's basically suffering. So marriage also in the beginning, yes, looks very nice. Okay, I met the right person, so I'm so happy. You know, you put the ring there, and then honeymoon, and so many, walking on the moon, whatever, all those good things there. Then gradually, that excitement went out, right? And especially your own attitude is wrong, then of course it will become terrible. So suffering of change. So therefore, all this so-called happiness that we are enjoying right now is basically suffering of change. Now, right now, this particular teaching session is for an hour and a half. So you may be hopefully enjoying. But if I say that this is very important, precious teaching, 1 hour and a half is nothing. So let us spend the whole night, a whole day. And I keep on talking. I think you will not last more than 2 hours. We have this very interesting story of Lama Soba, who passed away some years back. I mean, he was a great teacher, and he used just start the teaching and then start the teaching and then continue to give the teaching with his closed eye and just talking and talking. And then in the beginning, there may be 40, 50 people. Then people start slowly going because his teaching is non-stop. And people normally say at the end of the teaching, he and his personal assistant, only two of them remains. Right? Something like that, you see? So that's what I'm saying. Suffering of change. Then third is the, just like the turbulence of waves that you see in the ocean, you have suffering of suffering. Suffering of suffering means obvious sufferings, headache, diarrhea, things like that, that even animals can recognize that. So we have those things. Now, suffering of suffering, we have some idea, but we are not careful. Suffering of suffering, for example, if you eat wrong food, you will get diarrhea and things like that. You have some idea, but even with this idea, you have this stupid notion thinking that, oh, it will be okay. If you go to this place, you will get problem, but you start thinking, oh, it should be okay. So therefore, in Tibetan, there is a saying, don't make friendship with okay. It is not okay. So you have to be, what you eat, with whom you go, you have to be very, very careful. So the sufferings of suffering, of course, is our own creation. Suffering of change is also our own creation. Conditioned suffering, also our own creation. But we have some inkling of idea about suffering, but we have no idea about suffering of change, and definitely no idea about conditioned suffering. So you need to pay more attention to these things. And if you pay more attention and understand the suffering of change, then later on when this changes takes place, you will not be shocked. You will not be shocked. Otherwise, people think, okay, this friendship will continue forever. Then that other person changes, you get completely shocked. Then you start lamenting and crying, saying that I never thought he is such a person. You're stupid. Right? So even in the case of a very good person, he will not be there with you forever. He will die, she will die. This is the law of nature. Right? So therefore, and then in addition to the sufferings in a big ocean, there is also likelihood of the presence of a crocodile and many other sea monsters. You help us traverse the ocean of samsara, so terrifying and difficult to cross. So difficult to cross in the case of this ocean. Terrifying because of the waves, because of the depth, because of the presence of sea monsters like crocodile. So if somebody with a really strong board and with good knowledge, takes you and helps you cross the ocean, you will be very grateful to that person. So right now, just like that person who's stuck in that turbulent sea, you are stuck in the samsara. And here, the one who will help you come out of this samsara is your guru, your teacher. And especially the teacher who observes the pure moral conduct, which is found in the Kadamba lineage, who help us traverse the ocean of samsara, so terrifying and difficult to cross. Then from the next lines, I think it is talking about the Mahamudra lineage, the second lineage. And with the Kadamba lineage, it starts from Atisha and so forth. And Milarepa received many teachings from some of the Kadamba masters. Okay. Then with the Mahamudra lineage, he says, your stream of blessings is as inexhaustibly immense as the expanse of the great ocean, and your aspirations are vast, enduring, and spontaneously accomplished. All noble masters of the flawless practice lineage, I bow before you, be my refuge, and grant your blessings. Okay. Especially now in the case of the Mahamudra, due to the kindness of Milarepa, who was his teacher, due to the kindness of Milarepa, Gampopa realized Mahamudra. So he is highlighting the greatness of this lineage, this lineage which is called Dubju, which means lineage of practice. So in this lineage of Mahamudra, receiving uninterrupted blessing, uninterrupted lineage and blessing from qualified master is said to be very, very important, a very special thing in the Mahamudra. So therefore he's saying your stream of blessings is as inexhaustibly immense as the expanse of the great ocean. Ocean never comes to an end, right? So the blessing never comes to an end. And your aspirations are vast. Now this blessing you can receive this blessing if you have this genuine aspiration. And your aspirations are vast, enduring, and spontaneously accomplished. This lineage of Mahamudra is transferred or received through belief and veneration, which is there in all the masters, who gives this, supreme empowerment. So that lineage comes or is transmitted primarily through one-pointed trust and belief. If you read the life history of Milarepa, how much trust he had to Marpa. As a way to purify all his negative deeds, Marpa asked him to construct so many houses single-handedly. And he did all this. So these are like very difficult to understand in our age. All noble masters of the flawless practice lineage. So as I said, the Lama has to be qualified. Flawless lineage. Not everybody will become a lineage holder because he or she says so. It should be a flawless lineage. I bow before you, be my refuge and grant blessings. Okay, let us stop here. Ask some questions. We have half an hour. ask some questions. I'm not saying I have all the answers, but we will discuss.
Okay,
You need to always ask questions.
Geshe
The
La, I have
answers may come. The answers may come from the teacher, or you should get the answer by yourself. Okay.
Okay.
Yes,
Geshe La,
somebody
there are
says
some
something.
questions in
Yeah.
the chat.
Huh?
There are some questions in the chat. Would you like me to read them?
Yeah, please.
Okay, hang on a second. Hang on. Okay, so the first question that was asked was, do you consider right and correct Osho's speeches on Buddha?
Osho speeches.
Yes?
In Buddhism, in Buddhism, forget about Osho. In Buddhism, we say we can never say who is who.
Hmm.
You cannot say that somebody is looking uneducated and poor, therefore he cannot be bodhisattva or he may be a devil. You cannot say. Who are you to judge other people? Right? So in the case of, but I will tell you the story. Osho is a very eloquent teacher. So much so that when he was a student, he kept on asking and interrupting the philosophy teachers in the classroom. And then the philosophy teacher said, you are interrupting the class, you are asking so many questions, I cannot handle you. You need to go to some other university. So he went to some other university. In that other university, he was appointed as a teacher. Right? And then I also remember once Osho said that he is the future Buddha, Maitreya Buddha. And the next day, the Buddhist is in Pune, in that area close to the Osho's ashram was there in Pune. So the Buddhists in Pune and others, they made a big demonstration against him, saying that you are a hypocrite, that you are saying you are a Maitreya Buddha. Then he said that I thought the Buddhist is a more patient, but I find them also in similar with others. So now I'm not the Maitreya Buddha, I'm Zorba the Buddha. You know the Zorba? Zorba means something like the materialistic Buddha. I read a number of his books. So he's very, very clever. But we cannot say who he is. Yeah, then you have all these problems of his center in Oregon, right? In America. Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so the next question I have is, the student writes, thank you for giving your time to us, Geshe La. Recently, I experienced distress from loud sounds from crackers for many nights, and seeing my pet shiver and be distressed truly moved me. After a while, the distress turned into blind white anger, but I managed to control it, and all I could do was to kindly request the folks bursting the crackers to be considerate. My family heard about this and said I was very sensitive and I should not let external situations affect me. My question is, what are the features of strength? What does strength look like when external factors affect and cause pain to the five senses? And at the time, is there any value to being sensitive?
This is answered by Shantideva in his very famous quotation, which most of you know. He said, if it is something you can change, don't worry, because you can change it. If it is something you cannot change it, no use worrying or no use being sensitive, because by being sensitive or by being worried, you are not able to change it. So that is the answer. There's the answer. So, but I can understand your problem, because there are many, as I said, there are many stupid people all over the world. I'm not against any festival, any tradition, but sometimes we should use our common sense whether that process of celebration is good for us or not. For example, places like Delhi, even before the Diwali celebration with crackers, is highly, highly polluted. Now, as if adding fuel to the fire, you burn all these crackers, and many people, I have a number somewhere, many people even got hurt. So from there you can see not only the small young children, the so-called grown-up people like us, we are also like children. We are so stupid. We are not able to. We simply follow others, right? So therefore, I think we cannot stop these things, but we should discuss, and then there should be a way to better celebrate without creating more pollution and without hurting others. And then, in my case, the place where I live right now, so sometimes some of the neighbors, they play very, very loud musics. Then I just, instead of getting angry, I plug my ear. So you can do that also. Okay.
Okay. The next question is in regards to negative emotions, how to work with strong habitual patterns. And can you talk about how to overcome guilt?
Guilt is an English word, difficult to understand. But if it is a negative or wrongdoing that you have done in the past, it is done already. Now here, there's not much point thinking that I've committed this mistake, now I am incorrigible, I'll go straight to hell. Not that kind of thinking. So if you're talking about that kind of guilt, then that kind of guilt is useless. But you should regret the wrongdoing as wrong. And that doesn't mean that you are now helpless, that you can't change, right? Now you should take a commitment that you will not repeat this again. It's really like coming out of addiction to drink or something like that. So we are addicted to many things, including negative emotions. So we need to see the result of such, negative emotions and see whether it's good for you or not. That's the only way. And you need to be a little bit bold when it comes to stopping some negative deeds. You need to be decisive. Don't be timid. Sometimes, unfortunately, when it comes to fighting with other people, we are very brave. When it comes to fighting with the negative emotions, we are very timid, very coward. So Shantideva, if you read Shantideva's book, Bodhicharya Avatara, where he mentions how to gather your courage to fight these negative emotions. Right? Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a couple more questions and then we'll switch and let the Russian questionnaire,
Okay.
Russian students ask questions. So the next question I have is, can you please tell us about neutral affliction?
Neutral.
That's what she said.
Neutral affliction.
Yeah.
Neutral affliction, I don't know. Normally we say virtuous, non-virtuous, and then neutral.
Mhm.
We don't call it neutral afflictions. Okay.
Okay. And then, so at the end of the day, can we trust ourselves to be our own gurus, knowing that the obstacles or confusion will not go away until it's taught us the lessons we need to know?
Yeah, you should be, as I said, I started by saying you should be your guru, you should be your caretaker. If you don't help yourself, nobody can help you in the true sense of the term. Okay. And you need to realize that you are the only true original copy in this world. You are not a duplicate, you are not a photocopy. So that means you have every capacity to do things, to change things. If you make the right effort, you can bring miracles. Right? Normally, we don't make a move. We don't start doing things. We don't believe ourselves. And in terms of doing Dharma practice, the first lesson that you need to learn is you need to enjoy. Just like somebody playing football, enjoying football, somebody enjoying dancing. So like that, you need to enjoy. Then you will achieve success very easily. You will not become Buddha in one day, but you will see the result even within few weeks. For example, if you are somebody who is not smiling much, smile a little bit more. That will lighten the burden in your mind, in your body, tensions in your body. Everything will be lightened. And then every day you should think that I'm so fortunate that I'm not a cow, I'm not a dog, I'm a human being with this great brain, with this great capacity to communicate and say things, share your problems, share others' problems, and sit together and solve through dialogue and negotiation. You have so many great qualities. So highlight and appreciate all these good qualities that you have. Look at other animals. Their hands are not free. All the four limbs they have to use. Now the fact that we are able to stand erect and hands free, that is not only for using, taking selfie or mobile phone, but it's for hugging, it's for shaking hands, which no animals can do. So you have so many great things you have. Appreciate those things and start doing the right thing. Okay?
All right, I'm going to ask one more question and then we'll turn it over
Yes.
to the Russians.
Yeah.
Hello. What exactly is Mahamudra? You mentioned this as a practice. Is it gaining understanding, truth experience?
I don't know much right now. I will read and tell you tomorrow. Next time, next second session.
Okay.
Maha means great. Mudra means seal. So great seal, it is called great seal. Okay. So that great seal has many. Great seal of the path, great seal of the fruit, and so many different varieties. Okay.
Okay. All right. We'll let the other side ask questions now. There are more questions,
Yes.
but go ahead. Let's see what else is there.
Thank you
Okay.
so much. Thank you so much. We'll start with the question pertaining to the topic of our teachings. Dear Geshe La,
Yeah.
when you studied the texts on Gampopa's life, what was most memorable, inspiring to you?
Most inspiring thing was that he did not say that he was enlightened right in the beginning. He said that he also had difficulties in his life, as I already explained, like you and me. And then he realized that the way he is spending his life was not the right one. He entered into Dharma practice with full dedication, without looking back. It's not like us. We practice Dharma for 3 days and then 3 days going back. Or maybe 1 year do Dharma practice, then going back. In his case, once he started committing to the Dharma practice, there was no looking back. So he went ahead like a shooting star. So that's what I was saying. It's not only in the case of Dharma practice, whatever we are doing in the life, if we do it with sincerity, dedication, interest, delight, you will achieve anything. Okay.
Thank you very much. The next question is, Dear Geshe La, thank you. People are not 100% perfect. Does that mean the teachings are more important than the person giving the teachings? Sometimes some lamas look like they are imperfect, but they do give good teachings.
Yeah, of course, we are not perfect. As I already explained right in the beginning, if you are to cross that ocean with the help of a boat, until you have completely crossed the boat, you will never say that, okay, now I don't need the boat. You need the boat until you fully cross the ocean. So similarly, when it comes to your Dharma practice also, because you are not perfect, so therefore until you are completely enlightened, you need the guidance of the teacher. And in the Buddhist tantric practice, even when you are completely enlightened, you still hold those teachers on your crown. Amitabha and all those 5 Dhyani Buddhas, they put it on the head as the crown. You don't need any teaching from them, but still you highly, respect them, right? And then with regard to the teacher, as I said, you should not make any judgment who is who. But that does not mean that you should blindly see somebody as perfect, even when you see that person is not perfect. Then you will get into trouble, right? So there should be a border in terms of your relation with the teacher. There should be a border. Okay, there should be a border, and always keep some distance until you are very, very comfortable with that teacher. That doesn't mean you have no respect. You have respect because you've received teachings, but still you are not completely comfortable. So you don't need to submit yourself. We are living in an age where we don't have teachers, or not many teachers, maybe 1 or 2, but I don't know. Not many teachers like Milarepa or Marpa, right? So, so if even when you sense that teacher is not so perfect or not so qualified, still if you commit yourself to that person, it's like a person having eye jumps from the cliff, right? So it's like normally I say it's like your relationship with your husband, your wife. You know that your husband is not perfect, your wife is not perfect. Nobody says, my husband is very good, my wife is very good. We say, but nobody says, my wife is perfect. Or even if they say, they don't really think, my wife is 100% perfect, my husband is very perfect. But you see the limitation and you accept it. Yes, he's not a Buddha, he's an ordinary person. He has his own weaknesses, but he has many good qualities. There are many things we agree upon, so we live together. So it should be like that. Okay. But on those occasions when the teacher is taking advantage of you, exploiting you, you have every reason to leave the teacher. And I hate that. I had, met such people who had this problem with the teacher. Then I told that person, then in the beginning that you receive so many teachings from that person. So that part, you should thank him, grateful. But now this latter part, not good. So you have every right to leave that teacher. Just like divorce. So use common sense.
Geshe-la, another question about Gampopa. Do we have any descriptions on how Gampopa coped with the grief of losing his children and wife, or maybe was he helped by his teacher to overcome this grief of loss?
He's a very special person. I don't know the details. His teacher must have helped him. But as I said, suffering is introduction to happiness. Even without teacher, sometimes, when you are in such a helpless situation, you are in a helpless situation. That wife is already dead, children's already dead. So what are you going to do now? By feeling miserable and unhappy, will they come back to their life? Not possible. So he is compelled to think. He is compelled to now see, okay, this is the reality of life. This is not only the reality of life, but But the sufferings that I'm experiencing is because of my obsession and attachment with the children and the wife. If you had made a greater, purer connection, I'm not particularly talking about Gampopa in general. If your connection with your wife and your children is much more pure, based on more spiritual understanding, there will be less suffering even when they die. Okay, now you feel miserable and you suffer because you have this obsession. You are addicted. In our own individual case also, we fear death. Why? Because of attachment to our body. Milarepa in his 400 verses clearly says that I have given up all kinds of attachment. Therefore, why should I fear even death? Clearly saying that the fear comes because of your attachment to something. You fear that something is losing and you don't want to lose it. Right? But then you can see that this way of thinking that I don't want to lose it is unrealistic. Unrealistic. We don't think about it, don't practice, therefore it is difficult. But otherwise, there's nobody who has lived forever. As simple as that. Everybody knows. But we don't think. We don't practice. Therefore, when it actually comes, you fear. When your wife relatives die, you feel sad. Okay? Because of obsession. Because you don't know the meeting is for parting. Birth is for death. The very cause of death is birth, which we celebrate saying happy birthday. But this very happy birthday is the cause of death. If you are not born, you will never die. If you have never met with this person, you don't have to get separated. Okay. So it's all about doing. Next question.
Angela, could I just, continue this question? I
Yeah.
just would like to clarify something. You say
Yeah.
that, okay, it is understandable that you can have this kind of intellectual understanding of impermanence and that the person will go, I will go,
Yeah.
but still
Yeah.
this bodily reaction remains, even if you are prepared mentally for someone to leave, when the death occurs, you kind of feel this separation. Do you have to overcome this, or it will just remain, whatever practitioner you are? I mean, like, even if you're a good practitioner.
No, the bodily reactions are primarily from the mental impulses. You've heard about this Cambodian monk who burnt himself. And when he was burning, it is people who observed, they realized that his muscles are even not moving. Even when his body is burning, there's no glitch. So controlled. So that's possible. But that is dependent upon very strong practice. But most of us have not that strong practice. Instead, we have this very strong habit of obsession. So therefore, problem arises. And if you read Shantideva's Bodhicharya Avatara, where he says that through this practice of exchanging of self for others, a time will come where even if you have to give your body to others, it will be like you're giving a piece of vegetable to others. Right? And then you have also heard this story of Buddha. It is said that in the case of the Buddha, if he is flanked by two people, on one side his enemy, who with a sharp knife cuts pieces of his body, on the other side his friend, who is massaging his body with sandal anointments. But to this too, he will not see any difference because of this level of mind, control of mind. But that is not, of course, not easy. I'll give you another example. For example, mother, ordinary mother, not necessarily great practitioner. When the ordinary mother sees her child in great danger, let us say falling into a pit of fire, the mother, because of her love, without hesitation, without thinking about the risk of her life, she will jump into that pit of fire to save the life of her child. So this shows when your mind is very strong, you are able to tolerate all this. But of course, as I said, this takes time. So the control can be through practice, control can be otherwise, due to other emotions also. Okay?
Can we ask one more question from the Russian group or?
Yes,
Yes?
one more question.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you very much.
3
So,
minutes.
okay, the next question is, what to do in case when you can't get away from a teacher who uses skillful means and won't let a student go?
If you know he's really using skillful means, then why should you go? Or the teacher is very skillful, but you have a very important job and cannot continue to stay with the teacher, then you should also use your skillful means and go away from that person. Okay.
Geshe-la, would you like to recite some dedication prayers before we end?
Okay. Now, because you started the prayer, I need to conclude.
Do you want me to share, Geshe-la, or do you want to recite your own dedication prayers?
I'll recite.
Okay,
If
thank
you
you.
want to recite, if you want to follow me, follow me. May those with fear be fearless. May those powerless be empowered. May those that are bound be freed. May our hearts join in friendship. Thank you. See you next Sunday, Indian Sunday.
Thank you very
In
much,
America, what day is it
Sunday,
today?
Sunday
Huh?
morning. Sunday morning.
Okay, Sunday morning. Okay,
Yeah,
we are
yeah.
Sunday. Okay, Sunday, next Sunday.
Next Sunday. Thank you, Geshe-la, so much. And
Thank
thank you,
you.
everyone. Thank you, Natasha and Diana, for doing the translating and moderating. Bye-bye,
Yes.
everyone. Have a
Thank you,
good Sunday.
Geshe-la.
Good
Thank you,
night, Geshe-la.
Stay. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.